Well, he's one of, or at least was, one of baseball's biggest stars, and he's certainly the game's highest paid player. And now Alex Rodriguez tops another list, longest suspension ever for connection to performance-enhancing drugs. His suspension, 162 games, obviously an entire season. But now A-Rod, he's fighting back in court. Tamon Bradley's got more.
If Alex Rodriguez must go down,
strike three, down looking.
He wants to go down swinging. Today, lawyers for the New York Yankees third baseman took their fight to federal court, challenging the 162-game suspension just handed down by an arbitrator. Rodriguez's lawyers say Major League Baseball is on a quest to destroy the superstar. Last night on 60 Minutes, Baseball Commissioner Bud Selig defended his decision to ban A-Rod for using performance-enhancing drugs.
In my judgment, his actions were beyond comprehension.
Tony Bosch, MLB's key witness in its case against the three-time MVP who ran the Florida clinic Biogenesis, says he gave Rodriguez an assortment of drugs, including HGH and testosterone. Rodriguez denies doping, and his attorney Joe Tacopina says the 38-year-old passed every MLB drug test.
He is 12-0, okay? He has not once failed a drug test.
But Bosch, who also appeared on 60 Minutes, says he designed his doping program to help Rodriguez beat baseball's drug tests.
It was almost a cakewalk, actually.
If the suspension sticks, Rodriguez would lose his $25 million salary this season, with the Yankees still owing him $61 million through 2017. But A-Rod would be almost 40 when he returns next year. That, coupled with multiple hip surgeries, will make his comeback difficult.
He will be very motivated to come back. Whether his body at that point allows him to do so is anybody's guess.
A-Rod spokesman says the slugger has every intention of showing up for spring training this year. But since he's suspended, the Yankees could force him to train with minor leaguers. Tamon Bradley, ABC News, New York.
What a mess. And for more, let's bring in Andy Martino, the business and baseball insider for the New York Daily News. And I appreciate a couple. Thank you very much.
Sure, thank you for having me.
First off, I've heard different legal voices opine here. His chances, are they between slim and none that he's going to get this stay and that the appeal, he's going to get his day in court?
Yeah, well, I'm no legal expert either, but certainly everything you hear from the legal experts is that this is not something that Alex Rodriguez is likely to have success with. The courts are very reluctant to overrule or interfere with a collectively bargained arbitration process, which is what A-Rod just went through. He's made critiques of this arbitration that he walked out of last month, certainly. But at the end of the day, it's something that his union agreed to as part of the process, so it's going to be tough to get a court to intervene in that. That's what the opinion of legal experts is today, certainly.
Curious, you mentioned the union. I've heard conflicting accounts. Is rank and file the players, you think they're rooting, they were happy that he got a full year? Some say that MLB overplayed their hand. They got dirty lying down with Bosch here to get the testimony, and they did a victory lap, if you will, in 60 Minutes. Others said, finally, you know, it's finally time that somebody at least drew a line in the sand that if guys are going to cheat and create an unlevel playing field, there's at least consequences.
Well, I think among the rank and file in baseball, among the players, you have a variance of opinion. I've talked to players who are very much against what A-Rod has come to represent, and Ryan Braun and others. Players who want PEDs out of the game, who don't want their competition to be taking performance-enhancing drugs, don't want to feel pressure themselves to take it in order to stay in the league. But there's certainly many other players in baseball who are taking banned substances. Clearly, what we learned from Biogenesis is that you can take PEDs and pass Major League Baseball's tests, drug tests. So I think drug use is certainly something that's still very much in the game, and the people who are taking drugs don't necessarily want it out of the game. So among the wide swath of people who actually play in MLB, I think you have people who very much want the union to push for harsher testing, harsher penalties, get drugs out of the game. And there are some who are taking drugs and profiting nicely from it and probably want it to stay that way.
Andy, do you think that MLB they thought it was a good day for baseball? I mean, you're not talking about the hot stove league. You're not talking about free agent signings or anything else. We're still talking about steroids. We saw it obviously last week with the Hall of Fame vote. It's still a cloud hanging over the sport. But conversely, this is the big game they've been hunting for a while. There's a reason why Manfred and Selig and the rest were on Sunday night on CBS talking about what went down. Was this a good or a bad day in their eyes for the game?
That's a great question. In their eyes, in the eyes of the commissioner and his top lieutenants, I think it's a good day because A-Rod is somebody who they identified, as you said, as their top target for a long time. They wanted him out of the game. They've got him out of the game at least for a year and maybe forever. Who knows if he's going to be able to play and if anyone will want him when he comes back at almost 40 years old. And, in the eyes of the public, I have to say, it's a complicated day. It's not the best topic for baseball, obviously, but it's still something that people are paying a lot of attention to. It's an intriguing topic. Alex Rodriguez has always been somebody who, whatever you think of him, makes us talk about the game, about the ethics of drugs, about sportsmanship. Over the years, he's been the most fascinating guy. And I have to think that for a sport that's competing for our attention, like anything else in the culture, that as long as we're talking so intensely about baseball, it's not really a bad thing. They'd probably prefer that we were talking about trade rumors or free agent signings or who's going to win the World Series. But really, baseball is dominating the headlines, which shows that people care. And I think that's a good thing for them.
Yeah. Amazingly, on a Monday, we're talking as much about this as we were about the NFL playoffs yesterday. Andy Martino, thank you so much for a couple. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for having me.
And just as a group here, I asked the same question. Was this a good or a bad day for baseball?
It's good. It cleaned it up. Somebody had to step up and take some action, I think. It's terrible it ever occurred, but
It's the longest suspension ever for the biggest star, the biggest name in the game, and it's not even certain that gets it out of the headlines because he's suspended for an entire year, never admitted it, never tested positive.
He admitted he never tested positive.
No, he never admitted it.
Well, he admitted it. Remember at the end of the Rangers when he came over to the Yankees that he had did it
But that was
before?
back in the 90s when there were no penalties. Yeah. He hasn't admitted to ever doing it as a Yankee. I don't think this goes away anytime soon. This just becomes a big thing around the neck of baseball
so
with the season.
dirty. It's still so dirty. The whole thing as it goes on. If you listen to 60 Minutes last night and the allegations that he going into bathroom stalls, shooting them up here with the stuff. It's just
at a nightclub at 8 o'clock on a Saturday night.
It's just, anyway. Okay.
Too early
when
for
we
you?
come back here, we are going to be talking about our obsession with gates. Of course, we had Watergate, but now we're talking about Bridgegate and so many other gates in between here. We are a very uncreative generation, aren't we? We're going to be talking about that and much more after this.